6 years ago, I read Neil Postman's book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. I started thinking about how he would be looking at Facebook and social media. And so I started to study some. I put some lessons together for my church. I taught them at our camp probably 3 or 4 different times. In fact, all the pastors at our camp asked me if I'd do it again, and so I did. But just to tell you how my thinking has gone and what has changed for me, when I first started teaching on this at camp and so on, I would say that the Bible has nothing to say about technology. It doesn't talk about technology at all. Of course, I was thinking in terms of internet, Facebook, cell phones, things like that. But then as I went back and started to study the Bible, then I found that, first of all, if we're defining technology in a really narrow sense, then specifically, the Bible doesn't say anything about that, doesn't say anything about bananas either. But when you understand what technology is, the Bible has a lot to say about it. It's an amazing amount. So 2 years ago when I came, I really just wanted to teach on what I had learned and go through what the Bible had to say about technology, what we see, technology before the fall, technology after the fall, and go on from there. And to me, it was laying the foundation for myself and my thinking. I still didn't feel that I had been able to deal with what our topic is, and that is idolatry and image and imagination, and the way these things work on us to draw our hearts away from God. And so that's what I want to talk about today. If you would look with me in your Bibles at Isaiah 44, and I want to read, I know I don't have time to read a long passage, but I'm going to read still a fairly long passage. I'll just read it really fast, okay? So you follow along with me. Isaiah 44 and verse 9 has a very vivid and appropriately sarcastic view of idolatry and the way men make their own idols. Isaiah 44 and verse 9, they that make a graven image are all of them vanity, and their delectable things shall not profit, and they are their own witnesses. They see not, nor know, that they may be ashamed. Who hath formed a god or molten a graven image that is profitable for nothing? Behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed, and the workmen, they are of men. Let them all be gathered together, let them stand up, yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. The smith with the tongs both worketh in the coals, and fashioneth it with hammers, and worketh it with the strength of his arms. Yea, he is hungry, and his strength faileth. He drinketh no water, and is faint. The carpenter stretcheth out his rule, he marketh it out with a line, he fitteth it with planes, and he marketh it out with a compass, and maketh it after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man, that it may remain in the house. He heweth him down cedars, and taketh the cypress and the oak which he strengtheneth for himself among the trees of the forest. He planteth an ash, and the rain doth nourish it. Then shall it be for a man to burn, for he shall take thereof and warm himself. Yea, he kindleth it, and baketh bread. Yea, he maketh a god, and worshippeth it. He maketh it a graven image, and falleth down thereto. He burneth part thereof in the fire, with part thereof he eateth flesh. He roasteth roast, and is satisfied. Yea, he warmeth himself, and saith, Aha, I am warm, I have seen the fire. And the residue thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down unto it, and worshippeth it, and prayeth unto it, and saith, Deliver me, for thou art my God. They have not known nor understood, for he hath shut their eyes, that they cannot see, and their hearts, that they cannot understand, and none considereth in his heart. Neither is there knowledge nor understanding to say, I have burned part of it in the fire. Yea, also I have baked bread upon the coals thereof. I have roasted flesh and eaten it, And shall I make the residue thereof an abomination? Shall I fall down to the stock of a tree? He feedeth on ashes. A deceived heart hath turned him aside, that he cannot deliver his soul, nor say, is there not a lie in my right hand? Let's pray. Lord, I ask that you would help me now, that I could be very clear and plain in this area that is becoming a problem for us more and more and more. As Christians, it's drawing our hearts away from you, and we don't even realize it. I pray that you would help us to understand it, to see it, to see what's happening, to see it in our own hearts, in our own lives. I pray that you give us a good glimpse of ourselves, and then that you would give us a glimpse of you in all your glory, that we would see you and see that there's nothing really that can be desired that compares in any way to you. Please help me as I speak, Lord, I ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm sure that it's only coincidence, but the Bible describes idols as the work of men's hands 6 times, specifically that it calls them that. Deuteronomy 4 and verse 28 says, and there ye shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. 2 Kings 19 and verse 18 says, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they have destroyed them. The 115th Psalm, verse 4 says, their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. The 135th Psalm, verse 15, the idols of the heathen are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. Isaiah 37, verse 19, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they have destroyed them. Acts 17 and verse 25 says, neither is worshipped with men's hands as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things. As I said, I'm sure that the number 6 is just coincidence. I'm pointing it out to you because of the fact that men are most likely to worship what they make with their own hands. Mm-hmm. And that's what the Bible teaches consistently. The passage in Isaiah that we just read gives a very colorful picture, vivid picture. Here's this man. He's sweating over this. He, in the fire, he's working. He gets hungry. He gets tired. He has to go home and come back to make this God. He's sweating over this God that he's making. He's working on it and working hard on it. And he doesn't even notice that the stump of wood that he's carving into his God is a stump that a tree he planted himself and watered it himself, and he grew it up, and then he cut it down himself, and he cut up part of it into firewood, and he cut up part of it for this God that he made. And some of it he warmed himself with it, and some of it, and I love the ironic way Isaiah says it, he warmed himself with part of it, he baked his bread with part of it, and he worships part of it. What is he thinking? But yet that's the way we are. And we need to understand something. It's easy for us, we're Americans. We live in 2014. We're enlightened. No generation has been more enlightened than us. At least that's what we think. And we think, they have to be stupid to worship something like that. But yet, we have to understand that it was as invisible, their idolatry was as invisible to them as it is to our idolatry is to us. They were as unaware of their idolatry and the ignorance of it as what we are of our idolatry. We have to recognize this, that if we have idols in our life, most likely we're not aware of it. Mm-hmm. Just as them, they really thought that was a representation of their God. And I doubt that they would say, oh yeah, I'm worshiping this stump that I carved myself. I believe that they would have said they were worshiping the God that stump represented. And that's what we have to understand. Nobody's bowing down and doing obeisance before their cell phone. Maybe I should rephrase that, because I see people hunched over their phones all the time, just constantly hunched over that thing. But when they're hunched over it, they're not thinking, yeah, I'm doing obeisance to my God right now. They're not. God's idols are more subtle than that. That's what I want to emphasize to you. It really, Isaiah is illustrating for us the folly of idolatry. Proverbs 14 verse 8 says, the wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. Deceit. Proverbs 15:21. Folly is joy to him that is destitute of wisdom. It's his delight. But a man of understanding walketh uprightly. Proverbs 26:11. As a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly. And Jeremiah 23:13. And I have seen folly in the prophets of Samaria. They prophesied in Baal, and caused my people Israel to err. Isaiah loved to poke holes in the idolatry of his day, and it was a frequent topic with him. In Isaiah 46 and verse 5, he said, to whom will ye liken me, and make me equal, and compare me, that we may be like? They lavish gold out of the bag, and weigh silver in the balance, and hire a goldsmith, and he maketh it a god. They fall down, yea, they worship. They bear him upon the shoulder, they carry him, and set him in his place, and he standeth. From his place shall he not remove, yea, one shall cry unto him, yet can he not answer, nor save him out of his trouble. Do you see the picture Isaiah's painting there? You set it on the shelf. You set it there. And when you set it there, it can't move unless you pick it up and move it. It's helpless unless you enable it. Isaiah 40, verse 18, to whom then will ye liken God, or what likeness will ye compare unto him? The workman melteth the graven image, and the goldsmith spreadeth it over with gold, and casteth silver chains. He that is so impoverished that he have no oblation, chooseth a tree that will not rot. He seeketh unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image that shall not be moved. Let's get a right understanding of idols, first of all, then. An idol is anything that displaces or replaces God in our lives, whether it's in the heart or in the life. The Bible identifies two kinds of idols. There are the graven image kind, the visible idol, and then there are those idols of the mind, or the invisible idols. Of course, graven images are the most common in the Old Testament of the Bible, and the New Testament in the heathen cultures where the gospel was preached. And graven images are things men make with their hands and then worship with their hearts. But things that they make to resemble the God that they picture. Psalm 115 verse 4, of course Psalm 115 and Psalm 135 both are very eloquent in what they have to say. They're denunciations of idols. Psalm 115 verse 4, their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. They that make them are like unto them. So is everyone that trusteth in them. That passage is repeated almost verbatim in Psalm 135. So the Bible speaks of those, and then the Bible also speaks of idols of the heart. And the Bible names two specific idols of the heart. The first is stubbornness, which Samuel identified when he spoke to Saul. Rebellion is a sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Right. And then covetousness in the New Testament is identified two different times. Ephesians chapter 5, and I would like to impress you with my Bible memory skill right now, but Ephesians 5 and verse 5 I'm going to look at. For this ye know that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man who is an idolater, hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. And then Colossians chapter 3 and verse 5 also tells us the same thing. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. So these two things, we have two types of idols, the visible graven image and the invisible stubbornness, covetousness, specifically are named as idols of the heart. So we have idols made with hands and idols of the mind and the heart. And technology merges those two kinds of idols.
Sure does.
It's made with hands, but very quickly it becomes an idol of the heart. In the past, in fact, 2 years ago when I came here, I pointed out the power that heathen gods had over the people who worshiped them. They were governed by those idols. They were ruled by them. And what I argued was that if those idols, those graven images that they worshipped, had the power to come to life, think of how much more control they would have had over their worshipers. Technology has the power to come to life. If I miss a call and I pick up my phone, it vibrates in my hand when I pick it up. She'll let me know that someone called. If I talk on the way over here, maybe you don't know this, but I flew all the way out here, and when I was getting dressed last night for church, I realized I did not pack one tie. Not one. So I went over to Ross to get one. And I don't know this area. I talked into my phone. I told it what I was looking for, and it told me where it was.
Right.
It gives me answers. It does. It talks back to me, and it talks back to me intelligently. It's uncanny. I don't want to limit what I'm saying here to the phone, but I want you to understand that the phone is the most powerful technology that we have today. I'm sure that could be refuted. So I'm not giving you that but for us, the average person, what they're carrying in their pocket on their phone, if you have an iPhone or a smartphone, you have something extremely powerful.
That's right.
I have a smartphone, and I'm thinking I probably use about 10% of what it can actually do. They're incredible in what intuitive and so on. And what I'm saying, and I'm bringing that up to say this, that as much power as their idols had over them, their idols did just what Isaiah said. If they put them on the shelf, they sat there.
Right.
Collected dust. They couldn't move, they couldn't talk, they couldn't answer. Ours do. They don't move, but they do. They buzz. You can watch them buzz across the table, and people are calling. It's an incredible amount of power, and I'm saying that to say that the power that technology today has over us is so much greater than the power that heathen idols had over them. It's the unique ability of our modern technology, especially I think of the smartphone, that gives a life-like quality to the things we make, and that in turn demands our unwavering allegiance, our cult-like service, even our worship. It's a new form of idolatry. I call it technolatry. Technolatry is a new kind of idolatry. Those who engage in technolatry worship and serve their tools and devices.
Mm-hmm.
They find fulfillment and satisfaction in the life that technology offers. They believe that technology makes life better. They believe that it empowers them, and that through technology they will become better people, that they will escape their problems, that they will find redemption without needing Jesus Christ. For the technolater, the worshiper of technology, their devices define them, sustain them, solve their problems, and give meaning to their lives. How many people have believed that their financial problems would be solved if only they had a certain software program for tracking their checks and things like that? I've heard people say it. You know, I wouldn't bounce checks if I had Quicken. Quicken can't do that for you. How many people have believed that their dating life would improve if they registered for some online dating service? How many people have believed that buying a new car would make them happy again? How many people see the newest iPhone advertised and sell all that they have in order to possess it? It's their pearl of great price, their treasure hid in a field, the one last coin that they sweep the house for in order to find. Technology leads us to believe that we're made better people, even new creatures, because we have the various powers granted to us by our technology. Technolatry is an idol very much in the tradition of the old stumps and stones of Canaan. We make it with our own hands. Only it's taken on the features of men more and more, has become more lifelike and more like us, which explains the great power that it has both to control us and to deceive us. Technolatry is just a more sophisticated idol. Those who worship and serve their tools and their devices have fallen into technolatry, as have those who find fulfillment and satisfaction in the life that technology offers. The technolater, the worshiper of technology, believes that technology makes life better, that it empowers them, that through technology they will become everything that they've wished to be. For the technolater, devices define them, sustain them, and so on. In the beginning, when God created man in the Garden of Eden, God commissioned Adam to make and to be a maker. He didn't seek to make autonomously in the beginning. Man did not seek to make things autonomously, independently of God, as if he was his own authority. He made what he made in submission to God, imitating what he saw God make. For example, this is the best example of this. God made Adam out of the dust of the ground and named him after that dust. Adam that's the literal name, that's the Hebrew name that Adam was given. We've simply just taken it over, transliterated it into English. Adam. That was his name. Adam means man. God called him man. And God made Adam out of the Adamah, the Hebrew word for the dust of the ground. So he named him after the dust. Now we don't know what names Adam gave to all the creatures, or at least I'm not sure. I think probably if we studied the Bible, I think maybe we could see the Hebrew. If Adam, that's all debatable with any of that. I don't think we know specifically what names Adam gave to those creatures. The one name that we know that Adam gave was the name he gave his wife. And just as Adam saw how God named him, Adam did the same thing. He called her woman because she was taken out of man. Woman translates the Hebrew Isha. Man in that verse translates the Hebrew word Ish. And so he named her Isha because she was taken out of Ish. This making of names, that's the first thing Adam made, was names. And the power of naming is an incredible thing. You know, just think of the power. I think it was Sarah Palin who, when she was talking about Obamacare, identified, she called them death panels. She named it, and that defined the debate. Think of the power of names. Pro-life, right? We call ourselves pro-life, and that defines the terms of the debate for us. The abortion crowd calls themselves pro-choice,
Right.
not pro-death. Pro-choice, not pro-abortion,
Right.
but pro-choice, because they want to define the terms. There's a great power in naming.
Absolutely.
And that's the first thing that Adam made, was names. That's the first way he exercised dominion in the world, was to name things. Now this making of names was the beginning of language. The first steps, the genesis, if you will, of man's attempts to subdue the earth and have dominion over it. And if you think of it, language is the most powerful tool for dominion in the world. Think about that, because it's true. We see it in every area of life. The ones who have the talking points, who have the best presentation, there's a power in language all its own. And I'm not even getting into right here the fact that most of the technology that we use today is based on language. Because our Android phones and our computer programs and Google and Wikipedia and all these things are programmed, and programming is accomplished through language. One of the men in our church is a programmer. Probably most churches have somebody that does that. That's a huge line of work today. He traveled out here not too long ago to be at the Java 1 conference and just get up to date. He was telling me, after I did this presentation in our church, he said, you wouldn't even believe what they talked about there. Now with 3D technology and what they're going to be able to make, their power to make is going to increase dramatically, and this is all coming through words, through computer language, that we're able to make so much. Language is the most powerful tool in the world. The gift of speech is the one gift that sets man apart from all the rest of God's creation, combined with the gift of reason. But when man fell, his purpose in making changed. Whereas before he made in submission to God in order to accomplish God's purpose for his existence.
Right.
After man fell, the change reflected the change in his heart. Man began to make in order to escape God, in order to provide salvation for himself independently of God. The very first thing that man made after he sinned were clothes. And he made those in order to escape God and the consequences for his sin and find salvation without asking God for help. And we can trace this same thing throughout the book of Genesis, which is not only the genesis of the world and of our race, but also